Like Dolly Parton, I'm Tennessee born and raised, and I like to think of the work I do as hearkening back to the traditional storytelling of this region, so beautifully embodied in Dolly's music, but combined with digital technology and research methods, and minus the fabulous wigs. And the project I'm going to tell you about tonight, like most country music songs, springs from heartbreak. On April 16, 2007, I was in Blacksburg during the Virginia Tech campus shooting and experienced firsthand the aftermath of violence, the media invasion, and the subsequent outpouring of grief and sympathy from around the world that quickly ensued. But out of my grief sprung a multifaceted digital project that explores how we grieve and memorialize in a culture where mass shootings and school shootings happen nearly every week. I began the project just months before the news of the Sandy Hook shooting hit the airwaves, and my documentary was profoundly shaped by those events. Like many sites of tragedy, people expressed their grief over the Sandy Hook shooting by sending stuff, enormous quantities of it, some 500,000 letters, more than 65,000 teddy bears, and tens of thousands of other items, enough to fill an 80,000 square foot warehouse a few times over. So I decided to make an interactive web documentary called The Story of the Stuff to try to figure out why people do this, and also what happens to all that enormous amount of material that's received by folks like Sandy Hook and others following tragedies. The story that I tell is told through 7 chapters of text, video, photos, audio, illustrations, and interactive timelines that live on a website, thestoryofthestuff.com, and it's designed with a librarian's principles in mind. So the project is both highly accessible, including closed captioning for the hearing impaired, and also preservable. And throughout the documentary, there are videos that trace the lives of 4 different people in Newtown: the city tax assessor, the town librarian, a concerned mom, and a book artist, whose lives all become entangled with that of the stuff as they try to organize it, redistribute it, or even save some of it in permanent archives. So really at the heart of this work is the big question: what happens to all of the stuff? But it also examines what's saved and what's kept to become part of our permanent memory and archive of the event, and all of the painstaking effort that went into redistributing items, like those 65,000 teddy bears that went to countries as far away as Kenya and India. As it does so, it loops in my own experience working in Blacksburg during the Virginia Tech shooting, and some of the strange and beautiful objects, like those you see here, that were sent to us at Virginia Tech, and how Virginia Tech decided what to keep and what to discard, how to catalog items that deal with such sensitive materials, and how and why to make some of these materials available to the public. The project also zooms out to look at issues and phenomena as a whole, to ask questions about our culture, from how do we grieve and memorialize through consumption, how does the media cover our tragedies, and what does it say about our culture of violence, and most especially our desire and need to archive items following events like 9/11 or the Boston Marathon bombings. While people have been grieving through roadside shrines and makeshift shrines for millennia, it's only a very recent phenomenon, dating back to the 1980s, when we started to document, collect, and preserve the objects of our grief and mourning, and try to preserve them for all time. So while the web documentary introduces this concept to a general audience, the project also has some additional features that specifically target information scientists, librarians, and archivists who might actually deal with stuff and make decisions about what is preserved for future historians and researchers. Some of these tools include an online module for students of library and information science, as well as a book chapter of best practices for archivists and librarians who might find themselves in the unfortunate position of creating an archive of grief. So, as you can see, this project is part scholarly research, part journalism, part documentary, part transmedia. At its core, it's really a collaborative project that combines traditional filmmaking with qualitative research and digital methods, and it's intended for both public audiences and academic audiences. It is, at its core, what I believe the digital humanities is all about. This project has been viewed by thousands of people across the globe, and the map here shows the density by country. And it's been exhibited by special invitation at the Film Society at Lincoln Center, the Made in New York Media Center by FP, and Filmgate Interactive Festival in Miami. This isn't, however, the map that sticks out most in my mind. Instead, it's the one that's coming next, this one that reveals how since Sandy Hook, a gun has been fired on school grounds nearly once a week in America. Since creating this project, I've been trying to find a way to be a part of changing this disturbing trend. Hundreds of thousands of people mourned with us at Virginia Tech and Sandy Hook, but did they do anything to help prevent the violence? What might such a tool look like? Is there a way to convince people to stop sending teddy bears and condolence cards and instead work for action? With mass shootings happening about every 2 weeks in America, what could we do in lieu of expressing our sympathy? So over the past several months, I've been working with New York City-based Murmur and Vivid Story to create a web-based app that I hope will do a little bit of that. It asks people, regardless of their political leanings, to select factors they believe are contributing towards gun violence and to enter their zip code. And based on their response, it creates a custom printable kit to fold or color paper cranes, a traditional Japanese symbol of peace, and send them in pre-addressed envelopes to their legislators and other community stakeholders to work towards common sense solutions to gun violence. No matter how many teddy bears are sent, it does not undo the violence. So in this way, I hope to redirect some of the energy that has often gone into sending stuff that overwhelms victim communities and ends up in our libraries and archives to instead work towards positive change to a very complex and multifaceted problem. I hope you'll join me in this effort by visiting cranesforchange.org or seeing me after the lightning talk to learn more. Thank you.